What do you think of, I think what your brief is, Maya is doing some of the law, but the zigzag of people like Graham, others, and the naming of Mr. Perry in the new materials here, because apparently Trump had help.
Well, yeah, and that's particularly interesting, Ari, because the January 6th committee has generally been reluctant to go after sitting members of Congress, and Scott Perry, therefore, sticks out like a sore thumb, and I know has been a subject of interest for the committee for many months now, and principally because of the Jeffrey Clark connection. But yeah, the other thing I want to say relating to Trump and the subpoena is I understand the legal arguments against Trump doing it, but please do not underestimate the ability of Trump to frustrate his own attorneys at every turn. There is some possibility that he will simply be unable to resist the prospect of being on nationwide television. He loves the kind of theatrical possibilities that him versus, and it would almost certainly be Liz Cheney interrogating him, would bring. Now, and if that happens, then Liz Cheney will get to experience what we journalists experience, with one important exception. Perjury is not an option for journalists. And it is something that that could come into play. But I think that Trump has done this sort of thing before, where he has circumnavigated questions and run out the clock. So I'm sure every lawyer in the book will advise him not to not to honor the subpoena, but that doesn't mean that he won't.
Right. You're saying there's a chance that for a range of reasons he tries to come in and talk. We've pointed out to viewers most recently when he was facing the New York subpoena, he came in and pled the Fifth. So he did take the legal advice there, and he's got exposure here for sure.
In my book, I actually detail some instances where constituents and donors were contacting Republican members of Congress in real time saying, don't chicken out. So what about a few broken windows? Well, these guys had just experienced, a life-threatening incident, and in real time, they were very understandably unnerved by it. But they've since seen how the Trump base, which is the center of gravity in the Republican Party, has considered January 6th to be, at minimum, a nothing burger, perhaps set up by the FBI or the work of Antifa. And in any event,
well, they don't believe that. They don't think it's Antifa.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know.
They don't believe that. I mean, what they believe is it's so bad that they need to push it on someone else. I mean, that's where your reporting matches with what Maya knows from court, which is sometimes it's like you can't deny that it happened, so you're trying to explain somebody else did it, Robert.
It's certainly the truth that those who participated in it in real time on social media more often than not memorialize the pride that they felt in being a part of it. For those people who are not participants in it, they're the ones who are pushing this myth that Antifa was responsible.
I want to get you on one more item on the midterm, sir, but
sure.
Maya, your thoughts on all the above from a legal vantage point.
Well, look, from a legal vantage point, there's this thing called conspiracy. Mm-hmm. It means a couple people get together, maybe a lot of people, maybe just two people, but they get together and decide to do something that's a felony or a series of felonies. And what we're talking about right now, particularly with Rick Scott or anybody else that we see named in this subpoena, is all the folks who got together and said, we're going to help organize a way to ensure that this thing doesn't happen. And this thing is called the peaceful transfer of power after a democratic election. And that's really what's central here. I think the problem about whether or not people are willing to look at facts and follow evidence is a real one. Mm-hmm. There's a ton of disinformation out there on social media. There's no question about it, including spinning falsehoods that are simply unsupportable. Even the fact that Donald Trump knew he had lost, but convinced a bunch of people that he had won. It doesn't change whether or not it's a crime.
Right, exactly.
And so at the end of the day, what matters is not whether the majority of the American public believes or disbelieves. It matters what a jury finds when evidence is presented.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber. Thanks for watching The Beat. I wanted to let you know I'm writing a foreword to the January 6th committee's full report, which is coming out soon from HarperCollins. You can go pre-order the book right now, and it'll come to you first when the report comes out in the fall or whenever the government releases it. Just search Melber Jan 6th on Amazon or your favorite independent book site and click pre-order. You'll be the first to get both the report and my new piece on the coup conspiracy. You can also go to melberbook.com and order it there.